Sports betting brother, and hey, bring it up, and thanks for stopping by. My name is Boyd, I'm a sports betting market analyst with Oddsjam.com. We teach you how to bet like a pro. Today's topic is, how do I start? Where do I start? I'm a beginning sports bettor, just getting started, don't know much, probably don't know what I don't know, and looking for advice on where to begin and how to build a good foundation of knowledge to be profitable betting on sports. I'm going to go through all that, so let's get started. So the first step I would say after been doing this for 30 plus years is to realize that you don't know what you don't know. And what I mean by that is for years and years and years, I had felt like I was kind of onto something, kind of knew what I was doing and things like that. And trial and error, and over. And then, of course, things change constantly in the sports betting world. And what I would say is start with an open mind and start with a couple of things to understand the fact that there's sort of two approaches in sports betting. There's two sort of general ways. It's almost like Apple and Android, kind of whatever one you're better at or prefer is really the route to go. And that is a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach. And I'm going to talk to you about what those each are coming up. All right, so we'll start with the bottom-up approach first, because I think that's where a lot of people start and just don't know any better. So that's kind of where they begin. I certainly did. And this is the approach that you're trying to identify value in the odds by making your own models, by using Python and coding and using all the different analytics you can for predictive analysis and maybe stats, maybe things you think are going to impact the game, etc. It's very, very time consuming. And certainly if your model is working better than the odds makers and you're able to identify value in totals or point spreads or whatever, then good for you. I can tell you over the long haul, it's a very, very challenging thing because they always are adding more and more technology to their analytics, and so to outrun the sports books is a big, big challenge. But that's certainly one way to where you're running your own analysis and then going and finding where you see the biggest gap and then using that to your advantage. And certainly if your model is doing really well, good for you. I can just say that is a very, very, very difficult and very time-consuming challenge ahead of you. Now, the other approach is a markets-driven approach, more of an expected value, a positive expected value approach to where you're using the smartest kids in the class, right? You're using the market-making sports books. You're taking their data, their information, and their analysis, and then you're able to find outlying prices in other sports books and other locations. So that's why it's an advantage to have a lot of sports books, is to give you sort of an option of many, many choices to shop from, where if you just have one or two, you're very, very limited. So again, that approach is more of a markets approach, and using the data-driven analytics of Oddsjam really helps you shrink your time invested and find really good value to be profitable mathematically over and over again. So adding both together, I think that everyone needs to have a little bit of a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, understanding what your strength is, maybe what your preference is, and the markets-driven approach really is I feel the way to go, just because it's going to be really difficult for an individual, especially if they're just getting started, to come up with their own models, their own algorithms, their own information and calculations and coding to outsmart the sports books on a long-term type situation. So if they're kind of looking towards my recommendation, I would definitely say top-down approach and go with that, because you're going to be able to add to your knowledge base and expand your strategies to expand all your different profit options within the markets, whereas maybe it's a little bit more limited with spending all the time you're going to need on that bottom-up approach doing your own analysis. So I think the next step after you've sort of decided which angle you're going to approach things from, according to your strength, is certainly immerse yourself in as much information and knowledge as you can take in, and practice. And you can use these strategies, use these different things, on paper trades. Just sort of practice before you maybe put some of that harder money into some of these different things and apply that. I got this idea for the video basically because one of the IT guys I work with that helps me with coding and writing code. He's like, I explained to him some over-unders and some totals in college basketball, and he didn't know what it even was. It was a foreign language to him. However, if I were to try to write code, I wouldn't have a clue what I was doing. So really, it's just the end of the day, being a professional, getting heavily involved in acquiring as much knowledge and practical experience as you can get, so that you launch yourself on a good angle when you first get going. Now, the next thing I would highly recommend is the fact, and just take in the understanding, you're going to need tools, you're going to need resources. And I can tell you that if you're taking that bottom-up approach and doing your own coding, heads up. I mean, these billion-dollar corporations have their risk management teams with all the access to all the computer programming and codes that you can imagine. So if you want to compete with them, it's a tough thing to do. Now, I will tell you, from the top-down approach, having tools like Oddsjam to give you the data-driven insights, the market insights, and the speed is something that is way more economical and way easier to use to save money and increase your profits by not spending all the time I'm going to say you sort of waste doing it the other way. So just understand you will need tools and need help and get some insights on sort of setting up a plan so that you can manage your bankroll and manage your time, manage your money using and applying these data-driven tools. So understand and accept that, and I think it's going to help you get a little further, a little faster. I think the next thing for you is to understand expectations. Really have a little self-talk to say, hey, do I have the time? Do I have the energy to invest in this? Do I have the ability to invest in it? Do I really, really want to? Because certainly, stock traders, real estate investors, dentists, anybody and everything that's going into sort of a professional situation, they put a lot of time and energy into it. And if you don't have that to invest, or don't have the desire to do that, maybe you should kind of rethink that. But if you do have the time, do have the motivation, do have the abilities, and have that desire, set yourself up to sort of gradually get into it, and so you can expand and grow that. All right, guys, there you go. There's a good starting point, sort of a 30,000-foot view on where to begin and kind of what to do for the next steps relative to your strengths and weaknesses. Because I can tell you through experience, a lot of it, that's what I wish I'd have known years and years ago to really help me go off on the right tangent, go in the right direction to build that knowledge base, to get that experience, and to do all the things you're trying to get to. And I can tell you that using the tools at Oddsjam is really going to help expedite exponentially, your targets and your goals in sports betting, whether it's recreational or really creating some additional income big time, for yourself. So again, appreciate you stopping by. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any other topics you want me to cover here at Bet School, let me know as well. And as always, let's go make some mathematical money.